365 books. The team of voices behind your daily clarity.
Welcome to 365 Books, where timeless wisdom meets modern life. Each episode, we explore ideas that sharpen your mind, open your heart, and help you live with greater clarity. All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to start this whole thing with a big mystery, one that has honestly stumped parents, teachers, and even doctors for the last decade or so. The question is simple. What on earth happened to Gen Z? I mean, seriously, if you look at the actual data, it is just startling. Around 2012, something changed, and I mean really changed. All of a sudden, rates of anxiety, depression, even self-harm among teenagers just skyrocketed. It felt like it happened overnight, and not just here, but in pretty much every English-speaking country. This wasn't some slow, gradual thing. Nope, it was a spike, a huge, sharp break from everything that came before. So what caused it? What's the culprit here? Well, according to social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, the answer isn't just one single thing. He argues it was something way bigger, a massive and totally uncontrolled experiment that was basically run on an entire generation of kids. And he has a name for it, the Great Rewiring. So the Great Rewiring, what is that exactly? Well, it's this incredibly short period, really just about 5 years, where childhood as we knew it just got completely transformed. It went from being an experience all about physical play and, real face-to-face friendships to this phone-based life lived out in a virtual world. And what's so wild is just how fast this all came together. It wasn't just one invention. Think about it. In 2010, boom, Instagram launches. Just 1 year later, the front-facing camera becomes standard on phones, which of course made the selfie a total breeze. And then, by 2012, that's the same year we see that scary spike in the data, more than half the population had a smartphone. So this wasn't just kids getting a new toy. It was like we handed them a key to this incredibly powerful and often pretty predatory digital world. Okay, so we've identified the culprit, but how? How exactly did this new phone-based childhood cause so much damage? What's actually going on here? Let's get into the mechanics of the problem. Haidt's argument is that we essentially made a terrible trade-off. A really catastrophic one, and this quote just nails it. We got so scared of letting our kids do anything in the real world, climb a tree, walk to the store by themselves, but at the exact same time, we handed them a device with totally unrestricted access to the virtual world, with all its bullying, its dark corners, and its manipulative algorithms. This next part really lays it out perfectly. The two completely different childhoods. On one side, you've got the play-based childhood. This is where kids take little risks, they scrape their knees, they figure out arguments with friends on the playground. All of that builds something called antifragility. Basically, they get stronger when they face challenges. But then, you have the phone-based childhood. It does the opposite. It creates fragility. It wraps them in bubble wrap in the real world, but then it throws their minds into this virtual deep end, which ultimately just leaves them feeling isolated and anxious. And here's a really key idea to grasp. The damage isn't just about what phones add to a kid's life, it's about what they take away. Haidt has this great term for them, experience blockers. Think about that. They literally block the experiences, the real-world inputs, like human connection, nature, movement, that a young brain is biologically programmed to need to grow up healthy. Here's an analogy that makes it super clear. Imagine a child's day is like an empty jar. For that kid to be healthy, you need to fill that jar with all this essential stuff, right? We're talking face-to-face socializing, a good night's sleep, the ability to focus, and lots of physical play. But screen time, well, it's like this thick, heavy sludge that gets poured into the jar first. It takes up so much room that there's simply no space left for all the good stuff, the things kids actually need to thrive. Okay, I know this all sounds pretty grim. It can feel really overwhelming, but Haidt is super clear on this next point. We are not helpless here. The problem feels huge, I get it, but the solution is actually pretty straightforward if, and this is the big if, we decide to act together. This brings up the big question, doesn't it? If the phones are the problem, why can't one family just, take the phone away, just opt out of the whole thing? And the answer is something called a collective action problem. Haidt calls it the trap. Because think about it. If your kid is the only one in their entire friend group without a phone, they're not free. They're actually totally isolated. The whole social world, the plans, the jokes, the group chats, it's all happening in a place they can't even get into. One family on its own just can't solve this. So how do we get out of the trap? The only way is by creating new social norms together. And Haidt lays out a few really clear common sense steps. First, no smartphones before high school. Let's give them basic phones that just call and text. Second, no social media accounts before the age of 16. This is to protect them during those really vulnerable puberty years. And third, and this is a big one, phone-free schools, from the first bell to the last. So when you boil it all down, here's the takeaway. We basically ran a huge, uncontrolled experiment on our kids, and, well, the results are in. The problem is crystal clear, the damage is very real, but the solution? It's actually within our reach, but only if we act together. So the question is, can we be the generation that fixes this? The choice is ours. For summaries, reflections, and daily practices, visit 365books.app and keep learning with us.
365 books. The team of voices behind your daily clarity.